This is by far one of the craziest, mind-boggling novels I have read this year. Okay, we're only in March and 2024 is far from being over, but this book is promising enough in this sense. But first, welcome back. I'm 21, aka the Regretful Penguin, and I read anything that my social media feed throws at my face. I decided to align my channel to my Goodreads nickname, so that's why I changed the channel's name. Though I'm still 21. The content of this video reflects my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. Also, I feel this review will be all over the place because, let me tell you, I'm still processing what I have read, and it's not easy. I'm still thinking about it after almost a month having put the book back on the shelf. The novel I'm reviewing today is Bunny by Mona Awad. It was first published in the US in 2019 by Viking and in the UK in 2019 by Head of Zeus. I have the 2020 UK paperback version with so many recommendations by publications like the New York Times, Daily Mail, Vanity Fair, and inspirational authors like Margaret Atwood and Lena Dunham. Okay. On Goodreads, Bunny is rated 3.52 based on more or less 182,000 ratings. I can see why the novel got this mixed reception because it leaves you with more questions than you initially had. There will be spoilers, so if you want to read the book first, feel free to skip the video and I hope to see you next time. Also, this review won't be like the others. I will give you details about the plot, but at the end, I will give you my interpretation instead of going through strengths and weaknesses. Bunny is the classic don't judge a book by its cover case. While the fluo pink rabbit cover may lead you into thinking, oh cute, the story is far from being frilly. Well, it has some elements that one would define cute, but they're just the ingredients to the grotesque character of this satirical horror story. Not the classic Stephen King style horror story with monsters or jump scares. Think of it more like Midsummer or Get Out or Vivarium or a game like Doki Doki Literature Club. I mean the kind of horror that makes your skin crawl from anguish. Basically the kind of horror I dig. The story is divided into 3 parts. The set is the fictional Warren University, which, according to an article by the Montreal Gazette, is loosely based on Brown University, an Ivy League school in Providence, Rhode Island. Our protagonist is Samantha Heather Mackey. I don't think the name Heather was randomly picked, but more on that later. Samantha got a scholarship to study in a Master of Fine Arts writing program at said university. Compared to her peers, Samantha has humble roots and is thrown into a world of rich mean girls. She wants you to think she is different, but deep down she is strongly attracted to this tinsel environment. In particular, she's taking part in a fiction writing class with a close-knit group of 4 mean rich girls, whom she gives nicknames to according to some of their personality traits. Sasha, Chloe, Jasmine and Jade. No, okay, they're Cupcake, Creepy Doll, Vignette and Duchess. I mean, who doesn't give nicknames? For a whole year, I've been referring to some people with nicknames until I had the guts to ask their names. Don't lie to me, Felicia. I know you've done it at least once. Sorry, I was trying to be funny. But anyway, this group is referred to as the Bunnies because between each other they call themselves Bunny. Now, I haven't watched the movie Heathers, but it made me think of the 3rd season of RuPaul's Drag Race where Raja, Manila, Delta and Carmen were calling each other Heather. So that's when I made the connection that the second name of the protagonist might not be completely random. So anyway, Samantha loses no time to make fun of her peers with her best friend Ava, who is the classic alternative woman who hates everything and everybody, but overall is a good friend to Sam. Samantha has also another friend, Jonah, who seems to have a crush on her and remains by her side until the end of the story. Everything changes when Samantha receives an invitation from the Bunnies for a workshop, where the 5 girls ramble about erotic literary pieces that they produced. Samantha also contributes with a story featuring a guy from her high school named Rob Valencia, who made me think about Robert California from The Office merely because of the name. This is when things start getting confused. Samantha drinks something, and then the bunnies challenge her to go catch a rabbit outside. Warren University must be Australia in the 19th century because apparently it's infested with rabbits, so it's easy to get your hands on one. But trust me, you don't want to know what these girls use the rabbits for. And let me tell you, from now on, it's literally us accompanying Samantha down this rabbit hole of madness. If you've read this book and felt confused, don't worry, you're not alone in this. Sometime after that, Samantha receives another invitation, unaware of the fact that she's going to take part in a prom at Creepy Doll's house. Here, Creepy Doll and Cupcake take care of her makeup, hair, and dress, while Duchess and Vignette are in the living room dancing with 4 chaperones, which all have names of authors, directors, or literary characters and use unnecessarily polished language with a robotic syntax. After that, Samantha joins the chaperones, while the other bunnies gather in a room, scream, and then, magically, Rob Valencia appears out of nowhere to be Samantha's prom date. Friends, I swear, I'm not making it complicated. That's actually what happens, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. After this night, Samantha is fed by Creepy Doll with pills, or Tic Tacs as she calls them, and she starts calling them with their real names. We discover that Creepy Doll is Kira, Cupcake is Caroline, Vignette is Victoria, and Duchess is Eleanor. The first part of the book ends with another workshop in which we find out that Samantha will be going through her initiation. The baptism, so to speak, consists of... I can't believe I'm saying this. Okay, if you're sensitive to animal violence, just skip this part. It consists of making a rabbit explode. Yes, it consists of making a rabbit explode. After that, a man would appear at the door of the room and would be brought to another room where one of the bunnies would axe him to death. Not to mention that each and every of these men are affected by cleft lip, which is a condition for which the upper lip and the palate of a person hasn't fully developed in the maternal womb. Normally, it's easily fixed with surgery within the first months of life of the baby. This condition was called hair lip, which is the term used in the book, because it resembles the appearance of a rabbit mouth, but the term is considered offensive nowadays, so we won't use it. I wanted to mention it so that you understand why it has to do with bunnies. After the initiation, the lines blur even more. The beginning of the second part is marked by the elimination of proper names and the use of the nickname Bunny for every person of the group, so that the reader doesn't get to understand who's speaking, while Jonah becomes a boy with a soup bowl haircut. It's a confused mess, which ends with Eva finding a nonsensical Samantha in a diner and rescuing her from the bunnies. Eva tells Samantha that she's been in a cult for months now, so she's there to bring her to reality. And that seems to be Ava's purpose. Despite being the cliché alternative girl who hates everything and everybody, she proves to be Samantha's anchor to the real world and a loyal friend in general. Much more than the sugar-coated compliments coming from the bunnies. The bunnies manage to get Samantha back in the group and want her to carry out the next sacrifice. They give her a rabbit, but Samantha cannot make it explode, so the rabbit manages to escape but gets caught by a wolf. Near the accident, there is a guy who's waiting for the bus. The group associates him with the rabbit, but the guy leaves. The bunnies are somehow angry at Samantha and they start excluding her from the group, so she gets a chance to reconnect with Eva and live in her apartment. There, she discovers that the rabbit guy is actually Ava's new flea, Max. Yeah, Ava Max. Can it get any weirder? Yes. Samantha decides not to go back home for winter holidays, so she joins the Christmas party with Jonah at her professor's house. Her professor, the one that she shares with the bunnies, is called Ursula, but Samantha promptly renamed her Fosco, while the bunnies refer to her as Kare Kare. This part is where I had a moment that made me chuckle, because Jonah is telling Fosco about his project, explaining that his initial idea was writing a poem of 2 pages, but he is trapped in the flow, so he ended up with a composition of 90 pages and counting. I honestly love this kind of grotesque. Lastly, we have 2 further episodes. I won't try to make sense out of those. The first one is a so-called emergency workshop with Fosco. The bunnies present their work, which are more performative, I guess. Now, a trigger warning: the following passage contains depiction of self-harm. For example, Cupcake, or Caroline if you will, shows up with the words "Eat me" engraved on her skin with a razor. But not only that, each one of the original bunnies shows up in a different outfit than usual. And here's where the facade falls and they act mean to each other. Like someone tells Victoria that her pieces never make any sense and are just pretentious shit. The final workshop is more like an evaluation of Samantha's last project by a committee of professors, but everything feels like an oniric hallucination. I had to read it again to be able to jot some lines about it, but I'm more confused than before, so I'll leave you to read it. And I am done. Yes! Victory! Okay, the book is not done, but I won't spoil the end. I'm glad it's over. I'm not gonna lie, explaining the plot was a pain in the ass. I left out other details, so if you want to find out what happens, you'll have to read it and go through the same pain. It's time for some considerations. Now, you have to know about my work process. When I read these books, I usually record vocal commentaries instead of taking notes directly on the book. This allows me to remember the details better, because I have the memory of a goldfish. While writing this review, I listened to them and realized my confusion and my will to make something out of it. At some point, I just stopped recording myself because I found it useless. I was pretty desperate, let's say. Was it me? Was I too stupid for it? Maybe, but I have to admit, despite being a confusing mess, I think the only thing I can do is praise this book. The novel is supposed to be a critique against the toxic environment that is characteristic to some MFA programs, especially in elite universities. But now I realize something. The whole novel, in its weirdness, attempts to make the reader believe that there's a subtext, which in reality isn't really there. You know that meme with the sentence, "the curtains were blue," that shows how the expert gives its interpretation for the blue color, while the author just meant that the curtains were actually blue? Yes, the hallucinations in Bunny are just that, hallucinations. They don't imply a subtext. Did Mona Awad give us a novel that pretends to have a hidden meaning, like the pieces that the bunnies present during their workshops, just to critique this toxic attitude? If yes, then I agree with Margaret Atwood. Oh, Bunny, you're so genius! Okay, I am aware that I just gave you my interpretation and maybe I went too far, but I had this epiphany today, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Let me know what you think. What I liked about this novel: the grotesque, the creepy cuteness of the bunnies, their mini meals and their pastel horror world, and the treating of academic snobbery with sarcasm. What I didn't like: you were a tough cookie to read, my dear Bunny. But other than that, actually nothing. And that's it for today. I leave some reviews in the description down below so you can get different points of view. As usual, thank you so much for your time spent with me. Be safe and take care of yourself. Ciao!